I like to keep people updated of what's
Yeah,
going on in the
yes, yeah.
technical part of it.
The
Thank you.
viewers
Yeah.
online. Hello,
Yeah, yeah.
hello, Facebook. Hello,
Hello, Facebook. Hello, Twitter and
Twitter. Yes.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Hello.
we're going live on Twitter these
We do go
days.
live on Twitter. Why not? Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 4, yes,
Oh
of
my
the Nickel
gosh.
Independent Film Festival. We're back here in the Winter Chalet at Elling on his beach.
Classic Zoom beach.
Yeah, people still love funny Zoom backgrounds in 2022.
Do they? I don't
Yeah, they
know.
do. And we're going to talk to some filmmakers from yesterday's screenings. We had 2 screenings at the hall last night, 7:30 p.m. and 9 p.m., and all of those films are still available online today and most of tomorrow as well. So if you didn't get out to the screenings last night, there's some really, really exciting stuff. And it is available over at nickelfestival.com. Without further ado, we're going to just jump right into it and talk to Elling.
Yeah, and pro tip, like if you start watching, you have another 48 hours to finish watching. So if you
tomorrow you're like
want to wait for until the weekend, you can just start playing it, and then it'll be accessible to you for a couple days.
Yes, so very exciting stuff, and we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk to our first filmmaker of the day, whose film played at 9:30 last night at the hall, and that is Stephen Cadigan from Mars Community. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Devin.
Nice to see you again. You've been on our festival a few times now, so we're always excited to show some of your work. Maybe can you tell us a little bit about what Mars Community is about?
Mars Community was, let's say, an experiment. But when COVID started and everything shut down, no one could do any films at the very beginning. And I thought to myself, how long is this going to last? Are we going to be shut down for a year or two and no one can make any films? So anyway, then the Canada Council put out a little grant and it said to artists, we want to help you. So send us proposals for projects, but we want the projects to be COVID safe. So in your proposal, say that it'll be COVID safe. So I had years ago thought up an idea. What if I made a short film and about people applying to be part of a Mars community? And the film would be people doing video submissions to be picked for it. So I thought this could work here because people can shoot it themselves or have a close friend shoot it for them. So it's COVID safe. So I proposed that to them and they said yes. And then that's how this started.
Yeah, it's a really interesting film because you're seeing it's kind of this tapestry of all these different characters and of course all these different actors playing them. How did you were all the actors people that you knew before, or did you find specific people? How did the casting go for the film?
The only person I knew was Roger Mondo.
Okay, wow, cool.
And I met him on a producer trip to LA in 2019. Mm-hmm. So when I put out the casting for this, he emailed me and said he was interested in being in it. So, but he was the only one I knew. And I went to different Facebook groups across Canada and I asked people if they wanted to do it, they'd have to shoot it themselves. So I got lots of responses, and some of the actors I said, send me video auditions. And there were some great auditions sent to me. So in this film, we have actors. We have Roger Mondo from Newfoundland, and we have actors from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Ontario, and British Columbia.
Wow, yeah, it's amazing. And did you write, had all the parts already been written and then you assigned them to different actors, or was it like, this person inspired a new thing? Like how did the writing process work?
I wrote the script and then I said, if you're interested in auditioning, you can read the whole script and see what character is best for you, and then send a video audition in for that character.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool process, and it makes for a really, really interesting film. Stephen, I don't want to keep you too long because I know that you're working on something big right now, but maybe do you want to talk about that a little bit? Talk about the big project you're working on right now?
last year's Nickel, I had a short film in it called Berries for Sale. And now that story is continuing in a Bell 5, one of their TV1 shows. So this weekend, we're doing more filming on that. We've shot some days already. And yeah, so that's a bigger project I've done before, but it's great fun.
Bears for Sale, to remind people, was about this sort of discussion about whether or not a town should decide to essentially dissolve. Right? Was the kind of central conversation. Is the new series kind of a similar thing?
Yes, it's the same characters, yeah. And that short film, which we saw at the Nickel last year, is going to be at the end of episode 4. So we start off, we see the story from the beginning with the same characters, and it moves along to episode 6 when we find out is the town going to resettle or not. So that episode, so that is fitting to this series, that short film.
Well, it sounds like you got a lot of work to do. We're super excited to see that, and we're always really happy to have your work, Stephen. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Devin, and it's always great to be at the Nickel.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, we're going to keep moving along. Next up, we have the filmmaker behind Negative, which is Ehsan Mohamdi. Ehsan, can you hear me?
Yes, Devin. Yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for speaking with us. Yeah, right off the top, can you tell us a little bit about Negative, what it's about? Yeah.
Sure. Actually, so the Negative, the whole idea comes to my mind. It was actually based on my an experience and also the things that happened to me personally during the COVID-19. So I'm here with my family as a student. I'm a PhD student at Mon. I'm studying folklore here. But so I have a background in filmmaking back then in my country, Iran, like working with the Iranian Youth Cinema Society there. But here it was a little bit challenged to find a way to start filmmaking. So I started to made some very short, like documentary things, very introductory films for Memorial University, and also so I found that there is an organization, IFCO, that we can submit the script and try our chance for making, short and whatever. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, unfortunately, I lost my uncle, my grandfather, and grandmother in like over a month, and it was like. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And it was so hard for me because I'm here with my wife and my twin daughter. So it was very hard to come back. It was impossible actually because the border was, the border was closed. There was no chance to get back to the country. So it was really, really hard. And during that time, I was thinking about a poem that my grandfather always recite when somebody from our relatives or friend pass away. I remember that he always it was I remember a line that it was so the translation is it's in Persian, but in translation is there is lots of spring after us. So and so the story comes to my mind that I feel very, very, it was very, very hard for me, and I was thinking that how what would happen to someone who had lots of bad things, lots of the people who were around but are not around anymore. So I'm a photographer also, and so one day I was thinking that what if there would be a chance to take a photo from the inside. So technically it's not possible, and the whole idea for Negative come to my mind is that I've worked with the manual, no printing. So I was thinking that what happened if we take a photo of someone and then when you print it, it is not the real person. I mean, maybe he or she is older. And I was thinking that maybe it could be an idea that for some reason, somebody, a lady or a young gentleman turn into an old man or old lady. And then maybe something very bad should happen. So I was thinking, and I found that it could be a very short and very simple story.
Mhm.
That the photo of someone, when you try to edit it over the uh, over editing software like Photoshop, turn into the old one, and
Mhm.
then so it will be a question why, and not the how but why.
Yeah.
And then so it's very short and very simple story. And the day after, the gentleman tries to maybe try to find her, and but find the lady by chance. And when he followed the young lady, he found out that the lady is playing violin in the
Mm.
in the graveyard, so in the cemetery. That and that the reason could be this, that somebody from a close friend or or family or relative pass away, and this lady, she looks young when you look at her, but maybe she's old
Mm.
from inside. Because
Mhm.
so that's a very very short and very simple story, but that's the whole thing that comes to my mind for negative.
Yeah, it's a very I didn't realize, sort of how personal it was to you as well, but because it's a very like mysterious film, it's
Right, right, right.
what like what draws you to wanting, like wanting to create like a mystery, something like that. Does it to draw
uh
people in, or
as I said, I'm studying folklore, and so
yeah.
the Newfoundland and Labrador, we always we love the awesome beauty of the province. However, of course, not winter,
Well,
but yeah, but sometimes when there is the mist, I like to go out and take a photo, and there is a kind of something that there is something behind the mist that you can't see. So
mhm.
something that is that's something that I'm thinking, that the things are not always the things that we are looking at them. So if you see something, and especially if the imagine that there is a mist, and then you see something, but it's not clear, and it's not the whole thing that you're looking at. So there should be something, some layer of meaning behind that, or something that we are not aware, or something that maybe is changed, and
Yeah.
again we are not aware of that, because our understanding is not always complete.
Mhm.
So that's the weather here is nice. Uh, sometimes sometimes it's not, but the weather here makes me to think about the time more than before, because
Mm.
if you don't like a weather, wait for 5 minutes. So
Yes, yes, yes. Great.
so
It's nice today,
that,
though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is the things that and also the here we have very rich folklore here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yes.
So very very rich in terms of folk life, and so artifact, the other things. So the other thing is that I'm really amazed with the stories here. So
Mm.
the combination of the personal experience and also the things around gave me the idea for negative.
Yeah, no, I think you evoked that really well. That's really interesting. Kind of wrapping up, well, you mentioned that you started filmmaking in Iran, and I'll say that if you look at our program, we actually have a lot of films from Iran. We get a lot of submissions
Right,
from them. We get a lot of submissions from them every year, from that
right.
country every year, because it seems like there's a really, really strong film culture in Iran. Is that accurate to say?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. I was also a member of Iranian Youth Cinema Society.
Mm.
Totally, we have in Iran, we have 34 province,
Yeah.
and every city and every big city and every province. So, in our province in the south of Iran, we had like three society, three youth cinema society. In a bigger society, there is big organization. So that's those who are interested to making the movie or making the film, they can find a way to learn, and they can find the community to enter and learn about. That's why we have very very talented filmmakers, and that's because we have an organization into into the communities that people can find. I also come from that that background. I started like photography and also filmmaking. from Iranian Youth Cinema Society. So yeah, that's the whole story. Why we have lots of Iranian filmmaker every year.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's great to get that insight, and but also we're so happy to have you here in Newfoundland right now, making films. And thank you. We want to thank you for sharing your film with us.
Thank you so much. Hope to attend Nickel again next year. I have my own script that I'm working on right now. Everything is about Newfoundland, like the things in Newfoundland. So I'm coming from another background, another culture, but I'm living here. I love the province and the people. So the other thing that I'm working right now, it's about the things in Newfoundland. So about the people here, and also about our life here in Newfoundland.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Hopefully a future Nickel we'll see it up on the screen.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Rustin, so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, David.
You as well. All right, next up, we're going to talk to Paul Waters, who is the writer of The Gambler, which closed out our 9:30 screening last night. Paul, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
I am doing very well. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
So yeah, right off the bat, first question, like everyone else, tell us a little bit about what The Gambler is.
Well, so The Gambler is a black comedy in a similar vein to In Bruges or Three Billboards, sort of that kind of thing. And it's a story about a battle of wits between an inveterate gambler and the two less than intelligent heavies who have been tasked with making him disappear. So the inspiration for the story is actually an argument about whether ignorance is bliss. So this is a long-running argument that I had with a friend of mine for over sort of 2 or 3 years. My position being that ignorance is not bliss, and her position being that ignorance is bliss. And we had this argument going back and forth, as I say, for 2 or 3 years. I couldn't win the argument, so I decided to make a film to prove my point. So it explores the pros and cons of both intellect and ignorance.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm curious about the process of writing it, because you're, well, I guess you're, I mean, I don't know if you'd quite call him the main character, but the gambler, you know, he's right off the bat, you put him in just a totally impossible situation, and he seemingly keeps getting into that and he has to work his way out of it. But did you, as a writer, have to be like, okay, he's in this, how does he get out of it?
Yeah, and I think it's a good place to put yourself in as a writer, because if you put yourself in a position where you kind of go, oh, I know how I'm going to get out of this, then my sense is that there's not much satisfaction for the audience. Whereas if you sort of write yourself into a corner and think, right, if I was in this situation, how would I get out of it? And it takes a lot of thought. I think that's more satisfying for an audience to watch and kind of go, okay, like that's pretty smart how he did that. But then also to see the hubris and the sort of the flaw behind that intellect that allows him to do all the things that you see in the film. Yeah,
definitely. You mentioned some films in a similar vein off the top, and one thing I think those films share with yours is you know, sort of subverting expectations or conventions around, you know, genre. Was that something you were thinking about while you were writing it as well?
Yeah, so myself, and I should mention the director Mark Popple, who unfortunately can't be here today. He's on set, but we're both huge fans of genre, and we love it when either from an audience perspective, you're watching something and you kind of think, okay, like I'm pretty sure I know where this is going, and then every time you think you know where it's going somewhere else. So as filmmakers, that's something that both Mark and I enjoy watching films, and so it's what we try and put into the films that we make together as well.
Amazing. Yeah. And so, well, speaking of Mark, you know, was he set to direct from the get-go? Did he come on later? How did he come onto the project?
Yeah, so we've been sort of really good friends now for 10 or 15 years. I used to work in video games, and he worked for an advertising agency that did my first video game TV ad. And literally about 2 hours after I met him, we sort of stopped for lunch, and I said, I really want to be a filmmaker. I want to write scripts. And he said, I really want to be a director. So we've made a bunch of shorts together, and our sort of careers are growing together. But yeah, he was always the first name on the team sheet, as they say.
Amazing. I found that so interesting that you used to work in video games. I literally noted that, well, kind of that question I had before about putting yourself in a possible situation. Like, it feels like there's strategy happening. So I actually was thinking kind of about like game theory or whatever while watching your film. So that's actually very, very interesting. And the actors, were they people you knew before? Did you have them in mind, or did they come along just in normal casting process?
No, we did an open casting process via a website in the UK for up and coming actors, and we auditioned, I think maybe 30 people. And there's sort of science behind it in terms of, do they sort of roughly fit the character, but it's really gut feel. And we needed a squeaky clean person to play the gambler, and then a couple of people to play people who could possibly be gangsters. And those aren't naturally who those people are in real life, but they were able to play the roles incredibly well.
And that island is gorgeous. Was that a place you knew beforehand, or was that?
Yeah. So for those that don't know, most of the piece is actually set on an extinct volcano called Ailsa Craig, which is 8 miles off the west coast of Scotland. So that necessitated about 3-hour commute every day on the back of a lobster trawler, holding all of our kit to stop it falling into the Firth of Clyde. But I know that volcano because when I was a kid, my grandparents lived on the coast there. And I remember my grandfather sort of putting his arm around me one day and pointing out on the horizon and saying, that's a volcano. And that just blowing my mind that a volcano could exist in so close to where my grandparents lived. So I think that was lodged somewhere. And when I needed this incredibly beautiful remote location where the production values are just on the screen for the entire 25 minutes, that just came to mind.
Yeah, no, it's a really when I saw that island, I was like, wow, that's a stunning set piece. And it's a fun film. It's a surprising film, and I hope if people weren't able to check it out last night, they go check it out online. You working on anything right now?
Yeah,
Mark's on set, I know right now. So.
Yeah, so Mark's on set, but we have an elevated horror feature about a medical trial that goes wrong that's all written, and we're just looking for production partners to sort of get that into production.
Well, if you're watching, someone give them money. We're ready to see it. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your film with us.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving right along. Next up, we have Tim Miles from Little Bird. Hi, Tim.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you for speaking with us today. Welcome home, we should say, because this movie was made in Ontario, but you're from here in Newfoundland.
Yes, born and raised.
And we were very happy to have you at the screening last night. Can you tell us a little bit about the film?
Yeah, Little Bird is a semi-autobiographical story. It follows a young man who is in the middle of giving a eulogy at his mother's funeral. And in a grief-induced panic attack, he steals the urn mid-eulogy and runs away to set off and spend one final day with his mom in hopes to spread her ashes on this beach where she used to take him and his sister when they were kids. The film is like loosely based on my own experience. I lost my mom back in 2013 to polycystic kidney disease. It was a long battle, her whole life. And I think as soon as she passed away in 2013, and then a few months later, I moved to Toronto to, I got accepted into an acting school, so into Toronto Film School. So I think I kind of pushed that whole grieving process that should have been. I think I pushed that down a lot and kind of just, I guess, for lack of better terms, like embarked on this new adventure to kind of not think about it. And it wasn't until COVID really that, I would come home sometimes for Christmas and the morning would come out at very inappropriate times, and I knew that I wasn't dealing with it correctly. So yeah, that being in the pandemic and not really having much to do or much to, look forward to, I kind of sat with it a lot, and that's where Little Bird came from.
Yeah, no, it's a really beautiful film, and you can feel in it how personal it is to you. You're, of course, you star in it as well. Was that always the plan? Was to act in it?
Yeah. I had toyed a little bit about, oh, maybe I would cast somebody else, but I think I needed to do it. Yeah.
No, yeah, you can definitely feel that in the film. Yeah, what was it? Was it challenging? Dealing with these things so personal to you, while wearing all these different hats on set.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, I had a really great team behind me. My producer, Caitlin Russell and Lauren Andrews, we worked on this short like it was like we were gearing up for a feature. Like, because I had to just, be on camera and also, I don't know, kind of delegate everything else, that everything was just so planned. And so we had a really strict schedule going into everything, and we just like over planned. Like, I remember we went up to the Saugeen Shores to do a location scout, and when we did the location scout, we just mapped out every single shot that weekend in the location scout. So when we got to set, when we got that weekend, we knew exactly what we were doing.
Yeah, what was it about that community that you were drawn towards? Because you can the town feels like a real character in the film also.
Yeah, well, my producer Lauren, she has a family cottage up there, and she hadn't gone to it in years. And during the pandemic, we kind of were all in this little bubble, and we were like, let's just get away from Toronto. Let's get away from the city. The city feels a little weird, a little apocalyptic. Like, let's go up to my parents' like old cottage in Southampton. So we all go up, and as soon as I get there, I'm like, holy shit! Like, this just reminds me so much of home. Just like the way, like, her cottage is like right on the water, and just the trees and the everything there, and just the people are really nice and really friendly, and it's just a small little storybook town. And I fell in love with it, and we went up like probably almost every weekend during the pandemic. We just like went up all the time, and it really it grew close to me, and especially the Saugeen First Nations, which is the reservation. They own, the land. I got really close with them as well, and they welcomed a lot of the community members of Saugeen are actually in the film. They played the guests at the funeral, which was really special to have them and to have, their support and, welcome us on their land. It was very, very nice.
Yeah, because I happen to know some of the people who worked on your film. We went to school together. And which I only bring up just because it's silly to say, but I would I was seeing stuff from the shoot on Instagram, and I was like, the vibes seemed good. Like, it seemed like a real like family coming together to make this tell the story.
It was, honestly, like, I don't say this lightly when I mean it was like one of the best weekends of my life. Like, just the way that everybody came together, and there were like reunions on set, like people who had seen each other in a long time coming together, and like it just everybody. There were like signs. Like, I always say that my mom comes to me in ladybugs. Like, she loved ladybugs when she was alive, and she had a tattoo on her foot, and every monumental moment in my life, where it could be in the middle of winter, it could be anytime, I will get ladybugs crawling right where I can see them. And there was this, she also comes in storms. Like, the weekend that she passed away, it was dark in hell. So like, so we were like, her funeral was out in around the bay where I'm from, St. Bernard's, and it was just my immediate family could go, because it was just like this awful storm. But it was like, she was very rambunctious when she was alive. So I was like, that's like my mom's way of saying that she's like still here. So that weekend, it was like there was a storm brewing in the distance, and you'll never see it to be shot around it. But it was always like we would get cardinals, and I got ladybugs in my motel that I was staying at, and there was this storm in the distance. It was like brewing, but it would never come towards us, and the sunlight would always break through. So it was all very like, I don't know, just nature and nurture and the people that were around me, and it was like it was just beautiful. I can't, yeah.
So that's very that's very touching. And it comes through in the film. It's like it's such a beautiful film. I wanted to before we go, I also just wanted to talk about is it Lisa Nason who plays your sister in the film? Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't say much, but also says a lot. You know, like I'm just curious how you found her, because she's I thought she's great in it.
Yeah, no, Lisa is one of my oldest friends in Toronto.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
Yeah, she's one of my oldest friends, and she's also Mi'kmaq. She's from Nova Scotia, and it was really important for me to cast her. And we had gone through like being young actors in Toronto for the last like 8 years, like trying to make it. And she was like my obvious first pick. I messaged her and she was like, "Oh my god, I'd absolutely love to do it." So I was so lucky to have her, and I wanted that. I wanted, because I grew up around a lot of women, and like a lot of, you know, I'm an only child, but like a lot of my family were like sisters instead of cousins, and she's kind of like Lisa's character, my sister character, is kind of like an embodiment of like all of the great female energy in my life that like kept me grounded all those years while I kept trying to like run away from my problems. It would always like, that's the push and the pull. So yeah, that's where I found Lisa.
Well, that's lovely. It's a really beautiful film. I know I've said that like 8 times now, but it's true. So we're really grateful that we were able to share it and that you were able to come to the screening. And I hope that if people weren't able to see it, that they go see it now over at the website, because it's really something special.
Thank you.
Tim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here.
Thanks, Tim. All right, our last filmmaker of the day is Jamie Miller, the director of Proximity. Jamie, hello. Jamie, this is your second time at the Nickel? Was Merby's last year? I don't know what time is anymore. Was
I don't know.
I was like, was Merby's last year 2 years ago?
Merby's is, there.
Yeah. But can you tell us a little bit about what Proximity is?
Well, Proximity follows the day in the life of a young woman who's living in a small community and in Newfoundland, and kind of going through her daily tasks, her daily life, which is quite isolating, while her husband is out on his boat fishing. And it's kind of about how she finds her own sense of freedom in this kind of limited, isolated world.
Yeah. I'm gonna repeat myself. I feel actually like you and Tim were shooting around the same time, because I remember like literally just like being on Instagram being like, all these great vibe shoots, and like yours is the same way, where I just like really felt like because it was a small crew right out there.
Yeah, fairly small crew, and it's a tiny town that we shot in called New Chelsea, about 2 hours outside St. John's, and it was really magical. I mean, it was like relating hard to what Tim was just saying about it just being kind of the magical and something special, the nature and nurture of it all. A lot of my family was there. My mom was serving food. My aunt and my grandma were helping her, and it worked out in this really crazy kind of way where we, I went to this town because I had an uncle and his partner who had a place out there, and then across from them was like kind of the perfect house. We scoured the coasts of Newfoundland within 2-hour radius of St. John's, and this was really like the only house that checked all the boxes. And it happened to be, we found like 5 other houses in that community that we had random connections to, so we were able to put the crew up there for the weekend we shot, and it was really just a beautiful community event. I mean, it drilled in harder than ever to me that filmmaking is a community-based art form, and that mutual aid really comes in moments in projects like these, and it was really special and moving.
Yeah, no, I was like really feeling it. I was just looking at my phone like, oh, this looks great. Does that trickle down to the sort of process of filming, like how tightly, because the cinematography is very gory, the images are really beautiful in the film. How much of that was like pre-planned, and how much of that was like finding it in the moment, like reacting to the space, reacting to the day? What was the actual, how did that trickle down to the what we see on screen?
It's definitely a combo. I mean, I'm very visual, like firstly in crafting stories, especially since this was the first story I really wrote. I come from a visual background. My dad is a painter. A lot of the images I had in my mind early on in the writing process based off of his artwork. And then I spent a long time, doing the deep visual research of finding reference images. And in my cinematographer, Gabriella Osio Van Den, from Toronto, she's a friend from school days, but also we just spent a long time chatting about it and really thinking through, the look and the color scheme, and she suggested doing the 4x3 frame to kind of replicate the little square houses that we were working within the communities. And then she flew in and we stayed a week out there together out in the community at my uncle and his partner's place. And it was kind of magical because we were able to just like go and, as Tim said, just like really pre-shoot everything, and work within the spaces that we had, and discover new locations, with the help of the community pointing out like, oh, that's a really good hike. You better go shoot there. Yeah. So it was really special that way, that Gabby and I really were in tune visually, and jammed out a lot, and also spending that week and spending that time together, emotionally, we went deep. And I think that was really important, and why I love shooting with people you're friends with, because a lot of our own personal stories were able to come out, and we were able to work with those. And I just always want to work with people I can be completely belligerently vulnerable with.
Totally, yeah. Does that, I feel like I'm talking like a lot about casting today. Did that play into the casting as well? Because your two main characters are Nico, right? Nico.
Nico Paolo.
Nico Paolo.
Steve Maloney plays the husband. And I mean, that was.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, I know Steve has some acting experience, but had Nico done much acting before this, or
no?
Which is pretty incredible, because she's quite good in the film. Can you talk a little bit about working with both of them, but Nico in particular?
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah. So Nico is a musician, and I knew her through following when she moved to Newfoundland with Tim, and she just has. I mean, everyone who knows her, she has this ethereal presence, this like beautiful ability to connect to anybody she cares about connecting with, and she just draws people to her. So I was super drawn to her, just following her and her music and her style and her just this natural relationship with the world. Like she loves the natural world, and it felt like very applicable to the character. I reached out to her, and she was like, well, these are all sorts of things that I do anyway, like baking and hunting and chopping wood and all this stuff. So we just kind of played with that, and I wanted her. I mean, I wanted the experience of directing someone who didn't have a lot of acting experience and could kind of just like be themselves within the space. And that's really what it was. And that turned into a really beautiful friendship that I'm so grateful for, because she just has such a wonderful creative mind. So that was really wonderful. And then Steve is good friends with Nico, and they, play a lot of music together. So having that combo was incredible. And then during the weekend, the music for the film kind of came out. Steve was playing an organ in the church that was kind of like our home base. And then they kind of like on site created the beginnings of the score that they later wrote for the film. That was also partly based on Nico's own music that she's singing a little bit of in the film. So it was really just like such an incredible organic experience with them. And then the other performance was my niece Bailey, who also had never acted.
Your niece in the film? Oh,
yeah, that's my niece,
the
little red-eyed
nice,
girl.
Yeah.
So her and I just got to like play in the backyard. I was like, do you want to try out reading the script with me? And then we would like swap performances. I would play the little girl and she would play the woman, and we would go back and forth. And it was great. So it was really family.
I love that. I love that. It's like such a well, I mean, I think it's interesting that music keeps coming up like that, because it's like it feels like it's like this like kind of like holistic musical way of making a film. Do you think that comes from maybe background of documentary, that you like going with the flow of things, getting drawing out what people are sort of naturally already inclined towards? Do you think that comes from your documentary background?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, it really could. Like, that was a big part of the process for me last year making this film, was trying to go with the flow of what was happening, because I was really stressed and terrified, and it was it was a really challenging personal process. I mean, even just in the context of COVID and everything, it was a really big personal process for me last year. Therapy helped, and therapy like helped me tap into just noticing what was happening and being present with it. And that is the practice that I had through documentary. It was really just I have this phrase that's locked into my mind from Wim Wenders, just like honoring the privilege of witnessing. Like, you have the privilege of witnessing this experience, and how can you kind of grab that and share that with the people that you're making the film for.
Wow, that's legitimately very beautiful. That's great from Bender's quote. I am also going to lock that one back. Really quickly before we wrap up, working on anything right now? Anything we can look forward to?
Well, any day now. A music video I just made with the Fortunate Ones, a band from Newfoundland. That'll be coming out sometime soon, maybe within the next week. So keep an eye out for that. And other than that, I'm kind of developing. I have like 3 different documentary projects I kind of started during the pandemic that I had to put aside when paid work came up, and delving back into that. And then just researching for a big dream project that maybe one day I'll make.
Well, I hope you do. This is Proximity, very beautiful film, and so happy that we could share it with people. So if again, I real broken record, but head over to nickelfestival.com to watch it and all of the films that we've talked about today. I think this is both screenings have like some really strong stuff. I think evidenced by some of the great conversations we had today. I am going to quickly do the thing now where I read what's happening tonight. If you're watching and you want to head over to the LSPU Hall at 7 p.m. tonight, we have the feature at 7 p.m. is The Incredible Vanishing Sisters by Kenneth J. Harvey, a fixture here at the Nickel, and always got to go check out Ken's new film. We also have with that Debauch, Letter from Babylon, Up to the Sea She Weaves a Dream, and that's at 7 p.m. Our 9:30 p.m. is our big horror night presented by NIFCO, always one of our more popular nights. So make sure you get tickets for that. In that screening we have Greed, L'Entente Cordiale, Thumbs Up, Between, Three Things We Won't Talk About, Secret Santa, In the Shadows, That Halloween, Golem, and Mummering Legends by the folks at Crying Mind, who are of course Nickel hometown heroes. So so definitely go check out that. Go watch these films over at nickelfestival.com. I will once again, as always, ask Elling if I'm forgetting anything. He's shaking his head no. Great. In that case, I will say goodbye for today, and we'll see everyone again tomorrow. Bye.
Thanks so much, Devin.
Thanks
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.